Okay, I'm going to try and parse this question. Aram Babasks says, a lot of software programmers are now getting into making because AI is replacing their crafting high. I see vibe coding is getting rid of your crafting high. Have you ever felt similarly about CNC 3D printing pushing you to even more go manual? Yeah, no, totally. My favorite thing about my two favorite tools that have come into this shop in the last 10 years, one is the 3D printers, and I'm including all of them under one rubric. Resin, nylon, filament, all the same to me in terms of how they can apply to my practice, which is significantly now. I'm blown away by that. I've turned 180 degrees. But my other favorite tool is the pantograph mill, which is like literally the caveman version of a CNC machine. And I'm getting better at it. And I just made a dial for the vault. And the numbers are so small, I can't read them with my dumb eyes. Like, I always, my whole life, this being nearsighted like this and seeing at a high resolution has always been one of my superpowers. And I want to tell you that I think it used to be here and now it's here and it's going to keep on going. It's going to keep on getting farther away. And, you know, and setting up big tools to do small, precise things is so hard. Whew. I get so much inspiration from Cronova Engineering. They've got a new one up where they're doing some very, very, very fine engraving. Dude, I learned so much. The thing that I have noticed, all right, let's talk about AI for a second. I'm sorry, programmers, that vibe coding and all of that is ruining your maker high, your crafting high. I really get that. I suspect that writing good code can still retain its reward, like good, elegant code. I'm not a coder, but I know enough to know that there's like a number of ways to write any specific code, and that there are some truly beautiful ways. And actually, yeah, for CNC and 3D printing, there's a huge glut of AI stuff out there now. So Thingiverse and Printables and other 3D printing STL compendium sites are now, it looks to me like half, well, especially with anything character-driven, half AI. And John Singer Sargent, famous painter, amazing painter, had a quote about portraits, which my father, also a painter, loved. And John Singer Sargent said, a portrait is any painting in which there's just something slightly wrong with the mouth. Every painter, from my understanding, like hates painting the mouth of someone that they know. And it's like an AI figure is any figure in which I can tell that no one really cared about this. I don't know what it is. I'm still working on my rubric, but there is like a lack of a soul, and I feel like I can smell it. I don't know. I feel like you could show me 20 things and I'd probably be able to pick out the AI. But you know what? I'm also probably wrong about that. Seriously, it was painting Herman Pinsky made me go look at a ton of 3D printed figures, only to realize that Paul Braddock's Herman Pinsky and his other characters are among the most beautiful drawings out there on the web. They are real rarefied, amazing things. Listen, you know, every time you put stuff through your hands, it's different. And I don't deride the using machines to automate the process at all. But there is something about finding the precision with your hands. Actually, it's funny. As I've been talking about lutherie, and I use that term very loosely when I'm talking about what I'm doing, I came to a clarity while working on this, because while I was working on it, this came from a Chinese factory. And when it came, there was actually a little bit of a not a perfectly straight moment at the end of the fretboard before the nut. And this nut is only just like pressured in there. It's not glued in. Yeah, it pops right out. There was this, whoever was making the fretboards that day took it out of the machine a little fast, and there was a little like whoop down there. And I was looking at this and thinking about the precision that I watched Ted Woodford go through with his 2-inch chisel and bringing everything right up to it. And then I was thinking, okay, but what do I need to do? Clearly, I need to add 70 thousandths of ebony to the end of this fretboard. And then I remembered that I have a giant milling machine, and I chucked this into it, and I took care of that. And it's like, what I realized is the deep pleasure I see in luthiers plying their craft online is in the handwork and the creeping up on the precision. And I definitely don't have that skill because I haven't been doing this for a long time, but the precision is something I can creep up on using my other tools, with the hope that, eventually I become good enough to do this by hand. I don't want to say like a real luthier, because I really am tool agnostic when it comes to this kind of thing. And all of that being said, tool agnostic, despite being tool agnostic, there is a feeling of something coming through my hands which is not quite like anything else. And when I've made an object and it sits with me and it lives with me, and it still fools me. I mean, that paint job I did on Herman Pinsky, which again, we still haven't even put that video up yet. Jeez, I'm so sorry. I'm teasing something that might not go up for weeks. The paint job fools me utterly when I look at it really close. And like, to build something that fools yourself is a remarkable moment. Let's see here. Okay.
Last question.
What's that? Last question? Okay. Okay. Shakes the Clone, whose username is based on the Citizen Kane of alcoholic clown movies, Bobcat Goldthwait's Shakes the Clown. Worth watching. I mean, it's a fever dream. Anyway, Shakes the Clone asks, any tips on prepping or priming 3mm MDF for painting gloss black and metallics? Hopefully an approach that doesn't leave it looking like painted MDF. And then Shakes the Clone lists, I've got Plastidic, Zinsser Shellac, Duplicolor, Primer Sealer, etc. Okay, I wrote this out on top. Coat, weight, sand, coat, weight, sand, coat, weight, sand. 3mm MDF. You want it to look metallic. You haven't said it's going to be like bent in any way. So this is sheet material that's about 1/8 of an inch thick. And you want a metallic look. This is the hardest of all of the paint jobs, is a glossy, unbroken surface. And the base you want for a metallic paint job is absolutely the glossiest black surface you can get. The thing that is usually the hardest part about a paint job is not the execution of it, it's the weighting and it's the prep. So if you are going to spray, again, 3mm MDF, you might be making a piece only this big, but I'm going to assume that's going to be bigger. I'll tell you that you need to prime it, hit it with a little Bondo, make sure it's really, really sanded smooth before you get even close to your actual paint job. Keep on priming it, keep on sanding it until you really have gotten rid of all the witness marks of that. So you're taking it down to like a 220 grit. And just doing primer and sanding and primer and sanding. Again, if it's got some dings, you might have to Bondo those. Then once you have it where it's like you've held a lamp to the side and you have really, really made your eyes look, then you can start to coat it with paint. But before you do, I want you to go around your shop with a spritz bottle. First, yeah, you gotta spritz water around. You gotta get a humidifier. You want water in the air to make the dust in the room settle. Or you want to go into a room where there's very little dust, lay down a bunch of painting tarps, and then spritz it and put a humidifier in there. Swear to God, this is what cabinet makers do before they spray a big job. And then you want to not count on that first laydown of the black gloss paint to be the one. Like, get ready to sand and buff that paint job more than once. And then go for your metallics over that. That's really, with each of these steps, you should be waiting a day in between them. Attacking a paint job too early is the biggest reason that I screw up my own paint jobs. Truth be told, I mean, I come from film, which is where you don't want to wait for a paint job. So many of my techniques are about getting things done quickly. In the real world, you want your paint to dry for like a week sometimes before coming back to put masking tape on it. And it's like for a mission critical job or a big art piece that you're making for something, it is worth building a bunch of prototypes just to learn the process of getting a high gloss, flat paint job. That is, again, high gloss on a flat surface is the most unforgiving. High gloss on a variegated surface, so forgiving. I used to work for this building toy company called Zoob, and we had a toy based on ball and socket joints. And at one end was a ball, and the other end was a socket. And the ball had a whole bunch of detents in it, so it was like it looked like a Nerf ball, but it was like, you know, that's about the size of a Nerf ball in the toy. And we built a giant one, 6 feet long, and put it on the top of a milk truck to drive around America and build with Zoob, with Americans. And I took that giant Zoob that Jamie's shop had made. It was after I left M5. I now contracted Jamie to build this large Zoob for us. And we took it to Earl Scheib to paint. And the Earl Scheib people, you know, they'll paint back then, we'll paint any car for $199.95. And I'm like, how about a big Zoob? They charged me like $350 to paint it, but they didn't care at all. I mean, there are drips everywhere on this thing. But because it was a 2-part hardening super gloss auto finish, you didn't see any of the drips. Like the gloss just took it away from your eyes. It was an amazing object lesson. That being said, Shakes the Clone, you could do worse than taking your piece to a body shop after you do all the sanding and asking them to put an auto finish on it. This is what I did when I had a mission critical all-weather outdoor paint job that had to be perfectly glossy. I just went to I found an auto shop. At that point, it was Earl Scheib, and I got them to do it. Good luck with that, Shakes the Clone. There's difficult territory you are in. Large, flat, perfectly glossy surfaces. I would love any advice about specific primers you guys love. Primer formulations are changing all the time as volatile organic compounds become more and more regulated in different municipalities. And it means that it becomes harder and harder to paint high flash, quickly drying paint jobs because the solvents that engender that are super dangerous for our bodies. So it's completely reasonable that we're using less and less of them. But we got to keep sharing the institutional knowledge of primers we like. So put some of yours in the comments and I'll try them out. Thank you for watching. I wanted to talk to you about Tested membership. The Tested members are a key community that we find really, really remarkable. That's very separate from Tested and from YouTube. The Tested members, they buy each other memberships during our live streams. So if you're wondering whether to become a member, watch one of our live streams and someone may just give you one. It is hard to overestimate how much the Tested members actually make possible on this channel. They give us a lot of wiggle room. They give us a huge amount of feedback.
That's a member right now.
Thank you so much for enjoying your membership. Description for everything you need to know. And for all the members out there, thank you, thank you, thank you.